All right, our guest today began his music career long before he became part of the 1960s phenomenon, the Monkees. Today he's still rocking with his current band, Suede Blues, and they'll be coming right here to Vineland this Thursday night at the Fuel House at Baines Deli. It's our pleasure to be joined on the show by the one and only Peter Tork. Hey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hooray for P-Chap. That's actually a line from the show. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Well, Peter, I'm sure that most of our listeners are quite familiar with your work as part of the Monkees, but could you give us a little history about your current band, Suede Blues?
Gee, I thought you'd never ask. Suede Blues. Actually, the official name is now Peter Tork and Suede Blues. We have a constitution in this band, and I actually vetoed that idea, but they overrode me 3-1. That's an override of the veto. So it is now officially Peter Tork and Suede Blues. And actually, to tell you the truth, this band has been going from the start continuously for maybe 12 or 13 years already. And we started off as a little dance band, a little jam dance band, playing blues dance tunes, and we just kept going, and we just kept liking how we sounded, and pretty soon somebody offered us a gig, and then we started to scrounge for gigs, and we've been at it pretty continuously ever since, actually. We like to play the blues. We like to play the real blues. We really do like to play get down, nasty, dirty Chicago blues. Woke up this morning, my lady was gone, and I am heartbroken. That kind of good old blues. And we play some blues rock, and like I said before, some blues dance tunes. Great songs from the Chicago jump blues era. Some songs we've written ourselves, and a few novelty numbers, and we blues out a few Monkee songs.
Nice. So for those listeners who were lucky enough to snatch up tickets for this Thursday's show, anything they can expect? Because this is going to be a pretty intimate performance.
I was thinking more on the lines of having the Royal Canadian Air Force do a flyby. Elephants, that kind of thing. Just little things to keep it interesting. We actually love every kind of audience we get. We've played before thousands, and we've played before dozens, and we've played after dozens and after. And basically what we find is that every audience is the right size of an audience. I don't know how that works, but it seems like every audience is just about the right size for an audience. And so we play to the audience we got.
Oh, great. Well, for the past couple weeks, we've been featuring tracks off your band's CD, Cambria Hotel.
You.
Yeah, great album. And can you tell us a little bit about the CD, and where can our listeners purchase it?
Tell you the truth, besides coming to the show and getting it at the show, I'm not even sure. I think CD Baby, and like that. They can download the tunes from the MySpace.com/Peter Tork and Suede Blues, which I think they might like to do because, I think every single song on the CD is called Cambria Hotel, and I think basically every song on that CD is a winner, but others might differ, others might disagree, and so on that YouTube MySpace page, you can listen to 20 or 30-second bits of the songs and get an idea of the kind of beat. If you're partial to a particular beat, you can find out which songs do that and which songs are doing what. And download the tunes individually. And like I said, I think CD Baby. And come to the shows and buy it. And incidentally, you have to pay less if they're autographed. So you come and get them autographed, and then we give you a bargain.
So it's the signature discount.
That, in fact, the truth is that my CDs lose value on eBay if they're autographed. So.
Sincerely mean this. It is a great album. It's a very eclectic album.
Yeah, it is. I'm not fond of eclectic albums, to tell you the truth. I mean, I like an eclectic album. Let me back up on this. I'm not sure it's a good idea to make an eclectic album, but that's the album that we had to make at the time. These are the songs we wanted to do, strange to do a banjo tune out of the blue like that, but that particular song, always struck me as very much in the blues mode, in the blues mold. Something about that, the basic tagline is "Riverboat Gamblers Bound to Lose," and of course it's a throwback song. Obviously, there's no more. Actually, there are riverboat gamblers now. They have fixed riverboats in St. Louis, for instance. And you can go there and gamble. They have gambling exemptions to the anti-gambling laws in a lot of places like that. So it's true, riverboat gamblers bound to lose. You cannot, basically, you can't win gambling unless you're willing to pay for the thrill of gambling, which is okay, but by and large, forget it. So, but it's a bluesy line, and somehow or other, it's a very interesting notion. Anyway, I got that from the Holy Modal Rounders, whom I knew back in my village days. A fabulous little duet then at the time. Later grew to be a bigger band, but that Peter Stampfel, one of the wildest, hairiest banjo players I ever heard in my life. So there's that, and then we do a very jazz version of For Pete's Sake, which was the closing theme to the Monkees TV show. Very strange. You're right, the eclecticism. Anyway, I was saying earlier, for me, I like an album that varies enough to keep my interest, but I want to hear who I'm listening to. If I'm listening to a Steely Dan record, I don't want to suddenly hear, Pat Boone singing heavy metal or something like that.
Well, I'll tell you, and I do have to comment about what you said earlier about gambling, and this is definitely gambling country. We're just about an hour from Atlantic City, so you're preaching to a choir of people listening right now who have lost their shirt gambling.
Well, I hope not. I don't do much myself. Once in a while, I will, just the other night I sat in on a poker game with some friends of mine, but that was for the fun of it, and I didn't care. I figured what my budget was, how much was I willing to lose just to be allowed to sit there and enjoy these people's company. And so at a certain level, that's not gambling. That's, paying for your entertainment. Gambling is, compulsive gambling is a disease, very much like alcoholism. And, in fact, it gets treated the same way if you're into treating it. If you're suffering from the disease and you're not in treatment, not in recovery from it, terrible things can happen. Just terrible things. And I just hope that nobody is subject to that. And I wish everybody freedom from all of those things. I wish everybody freedom from alcoholism and compulsive gambling and compulsive shopping and compulsive sexual behavior and compulsive eating and all the rest of it. I wish everybody freedom from it all.
Peter, this is Pepper Paul from the radio show, and it is wonderful to speak with you. And I just want to tell you that I love the name of your band, Suede Blues. How did you come up with that?
Well, I just love to play with words like that. And I said it to the rest of the band members once, just as a joke. We hadn't picked a name at that point. And I said Suede Blues just as a funny way. Partly, and I turned my back, and they had adopted the name for the band. But for me, as a band name, the wonderfulness of it is that it also harkens back to a particularly precious time in my memory when I was a young sprout. All of the different kinds of pop music there were being played on one radio station. You had like one radio station you could listen to, and you'd have Little Richard and Patti Page back to back, and that moment when country and blues and the hardest rock available, which was pretty much Bill Haley and the Comets, and the R&B that Fats Domino called his music R&B, and we were calling it rock and roll, and rockabilly and all those various different kinds of country music, Johnny Cash, all those different kinds of music were on the radio at the same time, and things weren't as nearly as broken up and separated as they are now, and it was a fabulous time for us. And to say Suede Blues is reminiscent of that moment in our world when there was this great moment when country was blues and vice versa. And so we like to, so I guess that's one of the reasons why the Cambria Hotel was so eclectic, to use your partner's, use Joe's word for it. Just that we think every kind of music is pretty much the same kind of music. It's not really true, but you know what I'm saying.
Along with your live performing, you also have an online advice column at thedailypanic.com, which is called Ask Peter Tork, right?
Yep, AskPeterTork.com. Can't remember whether it's Ask Peter Tork at. I can't remember the actual URL, but you can go to The Daily Panic, all one word, thedailypanic.com, and there you will find not only my current advice column, but past ones archived as well. I've gotten some great responses on that. I must say I'm really pleased and quite, I don't want to say proud, but pleased and delighted to get the kinds of responses I've been getting about it. It seems that I might actually have, I might have something to say. You know, we're the young generation, and now we're not so young, but like the Monkees theme says, we're the young generation, we got something to say. And I've been looking for the thing to say for years, and this advice column seems to be it.
That's pretty cool, but what was the strangest question you were ever asked?
I haven't been getting too many strange questions. There's really they come in about two forms. One is, you know, well, was that a Gretsch bass you were playing, and did you really like it, and was it really your bass, and were you lip syncing the songs or finger syncing the piano parts? And the other was, you know, I'm a young bisexual, and my girlfriend doesn't like me, but I like this guy. What do I do? And that kind of question, you know, the real personal questions with the real intense emotional content. So that none of them is too strange. Some of them are very tough. Folks in deep trouble, very, you know, with a lot of challenges. That's the most heartbreaking. And of course, those are the ones where I can be of the least use to anybody asking. Of course, I give them my best, and I start with everything with, "There's nothing wrong with you." That's my starting point. That if you're in trouble, it's you're either, in other words, you're not responsible if you've got a biochemical imbalance. That's not a fault of yours, and it's not a fault that has led you to poor behavior, but it is your responsibility to deal to the best of your ability. And so that's my starting point in every case. But no, I haven't had any really weird questions.
Well, Peter, one thing I did want to just say.
This is Joe again, isn't it?
This is Joe again, yes. One thing I wanted to say is, we know you've had some personal trials this year with your health, and I wanted to just say, well, we're really thrilled to hear that you're doing so well.
Thank you. I did have, I guess most people would think of it as a very serious challenge, but at the time, I have to say, in all honesty, it seemed like not terribly serious to me, mostly because and it was a shock to hear the initial diagnosis. That was difficult, I will admit. But I have to say that after I got over the initial shock, my basic worldview took over, which is, you know, this is just life. Nobody gets out of here alive, and the only difference between a better life and a lesser life is how I select my reactions, my responses. If I select the response of why did this happen to me, and somebody's going to have to pay, and stop, you know, and leave me alone, and then start calling people names because I'm not happy, that's going to decrease the quality of my life. Whereas if it's like, you know, okay, what's my next step? Thanks for your help. Anybody who's asking, thanks for your good wishes. That increases the quality of my life, all else being equal. And that's the only thing that matters as far as I'm concerned. What do I do with what I've got? The rest of it is totally random, really. You might as well see it as random.
Well, Peter, it's a great outlook on things, and it's and I can tell that you seem to have a really good outlook on life.
I'm a very lucky guy that way. I've been blessed, really, to be given the support and the information it takes to assemble an outlook that supports my life, that improves the quality of my life, just as you said, it certainly is no virtue of mine. Goodness knows. This is, I certainly was that other kind of guy for a long time in my life. And as it happens, I was blessed to have, as I said, the kind of support and the wealth of information it took to lead me to an attitude which improved my quality of life. It's just a blessing. The word grace refers to unearned blessings, and I really feel like I've been graced, and I count myself a very blessed man.
Well, I'll tell you what, moving in on a much sillier note, I have a question for you about something that I've been dying to know.
Hit it.
And that is, whatever happened to the Monkey Mobile? Because that was one sweet ride.
As far as I know, the Monkey Mobile is available through George Barris. Now, George Barris did not design and create the Monkey Mobile, but he bought it and bought the rights to it. And I think there's somebody else who has the rights to it as well. It was in fact, I think the original Monkey Mobile got caught up in a wreck of some kind, and was recreated, reconstructed. And I believe George Barris has the rights to whatever the current Monkey Mobile is. It's still out there. It shows up at automobile shows, and every so often I go to a kind of a memorabilia show, and somebody has hired the Monkey Mobile to show up there, and I sit in the front seat and get my picture taken.
Well, before we go, and before you go, we wanted to ask you, as a radio station, as well as our listeners, what can we do to right what we feel has been an incredible injustice, and that is, how can we help you and the other Monkees get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, that's a good question. I do not know the answer to that. There's been a couple of petitions out for a while, and we've done very well. We've gotten tens of thousands of votes, signers to the petition. But, in fact, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a single-owner proprietorship. And now, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that is illegal. I believe that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a publicly owned corporation. I mean, it's a public corporation owned by the stockholders and run by a board of directors by law. As I understand it, nonprofit corporations must have boards of directors in every state. I'm sure it's incorporated in Ohio, where the actual Hall of Fame is. But wherever it is, I believe, that it's not legal. But in fact, de facto, as opposed to de jure, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is run by Jan Wenner, and he seems to think that he regards it as a personal insult to him that the Monkees were cast and assembled as a TV series, and then records were made basically under the Monkees' name, but not by the Monkees directly. It didn't bother him that that's also the case with Frank Sinatra, and that we didn't write the original tunes, not much, one or two. Actually, Nesmith had a couple of songs on each of the first two albums, but for some reason, Jan Wenner has taken it personally that the Monkees were constructed and came to pass the way they did, and has made it his personal business not to allow the Monkees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I couldn't tell you exactly why he's got such a hair under his saddle, but he does, and until he relents, the Monkees will never get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or until somebody overpowers him one way or another, which I think is unlikely. So unless you're willing to pursue the lawsuit,
so then you guys are sort of like the Pete Rose of rock and roll.
Well, no, because I beg to differ. The Pete Rose of rock and roll. Pete Rose gambled on his own.
Well, that's true. Very true.
Pete Rose did a very, very wrong thing. Speaking of, we were talking about compulsive behaviors earlier. Pete Rose is almost certainly a compulsive gambler.
You're right. I apologize. Bad analogy.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. But because Pete Rose may yet get into the Hall of Fame, they may relent. But we were not excluded by rule Pete Rose was banned from baseball by rule.
I guess what I mean by that is the fate really holds in the hand of one person.
Well, you may be right in that respect. I guess it's the commissioner says yay or nay to Pete, one way or another. If there's another commissioner, there's another chance for a different choice. And Pete Rose may well make it. I think there comes a time when enough is enough. But you know, and he really did have a Hall of Fame baseball career, goodness knows. And in some ways he deserves extra credit because he brought a not quite a fabulous talent to fabulous accomplishment, which to my way of thinking is even more praiseworthy than the absolute greats. So I think Ted Williams, who said, well, you want to hit the ball on the ground, hit the top half. If you want to hit the ball in the air, hit the bottom half. It's like nobody could conceive of selecting what portion of the ball they were going to hit. And he had astounding natural capacities, as did Babe Ruth, for instance, who just basically swung the ball, and then it went very far. So Pete Rose maybe deserves more credit than some of the others, and yet this terrible thing that he did that he couldn't keep himself from doing causes him a disqualification. And you're right, the commissioner is in charge of that, and you're right, this one person is in charge of this. But the real big difference is that the guy in charge of Pete Rose isn't personally involved with this, and Jan Wenner is for some reason personally involved with the Monkees not being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know. It seems a little strange to me, but and whether I honestly couldn't tell you whether the Monkees deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I will tell you that I think we deserve a vote.
Well, I'll tell you this much: you guys deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your saying so.
And we've put the petition up on our website in the past. We'll do it again. We always encourage our listeners, when we play Monkey tunes, hey, come on, vote, get your voice heard out there. These guys should be in.
Thank you so much.
And, Peter, I want to thank you so much. We're so thrilled that you're coming to our town this week, and I know it's going to be a great show.
I surely hope so. We'll find out afterwards. We'll agree afterwards on whether it was a great show or not. And in the meantime, I hope to see you there, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, too. And could I bother you for a promo for our station?
Ready?
Yep.
Hi, this is Peter Tork, formerly of the Monkees, now of Suede Blues, and you're listening to Cruise 92.1 Radio WVLT.
Hey, Peter, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you again some
Bye,
other time.
Peter. Thank you.
Take care, man, both of you.
Bye.
Bye.